On this edition of the Bleav in Titans podcast, special guest Dr. David Chao, 17-year NFL team doctor, medical expert, joins the show as we discuss the recent diagnosis of Chris Johnson and his ALS. That's all coming up on this edition of the Bleav in Titans podcast that starts right now. Welcome back to a brand new edition of the Bleav in Titans podcast here on the Bleav Podcasting Network, presented to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. My name is Chris Belcher, and if this is your first time joining us or you are a returning guest, either way, thank you so much for being here. Do us a favor. We ask that you subscribe on whatever platform that you have chosen. Rate the show. A 5-star rating is best. Leave us a review that helps the visibility of the show. And if you're watching on the Bleav YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate that so very much. Recent diagnosis of ALS for Titans great Chris Johnson. The community is continuing to support Chris, and the outpouring of love for him has just been tremendous to see over the last 48 or so hours. So we thought we would continue that conversation, but in a more medical format. I'm joined now by Dr. David Chao, 17 plus years in the NFL as team doctor, injury expert. Dr. Chao, thank you for being with us on the Bleav in Titans.
Always happy to be here, but probably not the best of occasions in terms of the discussion topic.
Absolutely. Yes, of course. The news broke on Monday. Beloved Titans great Chris Johnson coming out with his ALS diagnosis, and it's been a year since he was actually diagnosed. So, Dr. Chao, for fans who are wondering, why did he wait a year? And it seems like this disease has progressed so quickly in a year. From your expertise, can you walk us through maybe what the last year has been like for him and maybe why it took so long to reveal this?
Well, first of all, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I'm not a neurologist. It's not my direct area, but you guys always come to me and people come to me in my capacity as a head team physician and sort of like in-house counsel, so to speak. You may be not involved in all lawsuits, but you're involved in directing it. I may not be involved in every bit of medical care, but I would be interpreting for the team and otherwise. But you have to understand about ALS is to say it's life-altering is an understatement. It is, unfortunately, more than life-threatening. I mean, it is a fatal disease. I suppose Stephen Hawking, famous author, had ALS, and he lived decades. Yeah. But that's not the norm, right? And so can you blame look, I wouldn't blame CJ2K if he said forever I wanted to keep this private. Sure. I would not blame him or his family if he said I don't want to be seen like this in public. He came out and said I'm sharing this in case, for awareness. But I can't imagine if I were his wife or him, or if you or I had ALS, what our family would have to go through, what you have to go through mentally to get your arms around the disease process and looking for options and cures and getting treatment. Before you're ready to tell the world, you kind of want to get your house in order. And it doesn't surprise me that, he wanted to do that. And now he's ready to go public with it. And I respect his privacy. If he didn't ever want to go public with it, I'd respect his privacy. But yes, you see how fast the disease progresses, and it's very, very sad. And the other part that I think people should realize, it's a neurodegenerative disease. It affects motor neurons, not sensory neurons. So here's this big, strong, powerful, fast football player who is skinny in the shell of himself, and he talked about not being able to pick up his daughter anymore. But mentally, he's sharp, 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 sharp.
Yep.
I mean, the best, most recent football example is Steve Gleason, right? I mean, he's wheelchair bound, this, that, the other, can't speak motor-wise, but mentally sharp, 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 sharp. And that's Chris Johnson right now. And so in some ways, what makes it sad is the inevitable downward spiral, but also the fact that he is just mentally so sharp. I mean, imagine being trapped in someone else's body who can't move. I mean, it's in some ways, it's becoming. Look, he can move a little bit, he can do a little bit, but in some ways, it's like semi-quadriplegic, where your mind is great, but the rest of your body physically can't do a lot. I mean, it's I can't imagine the shoes that he's in and his wife and so forth. And of course, the other thing, the common name for this is Lou Gehrig's disease, right? And everyone, I'm old, but I'm not that old. I wasn't around when he made that echoing Yankee Stadium, luckiest man on the face of the earth speech. But that is really chilling. And it's amazing how it seems what Steve Gleason, Stephen Hawking, Chris Johnson, Lou Gehrig all have in common is, I don't know that I could handle it mentally as well as these shining examples have. And maybe that has to do with the year, whatever, to get your arms around it, right? I mean, kind of deal. I don't know that I could ever get my arms around it. So, let's pray for him and the best potential outcome. But even the best of outcomes, it's probably enjoy each day,
Yep. Absolutely. No doubt it is. And it affects everybody differently. Just like any other sickness, everybody is affected differently.
There's always a mental side, not just even from ACL tear recovery. There's a mental side until you get hit again and think, oh, shoot, I did it again, and dust yourself off and okay, you're just not quite the same. There's a mental side to all of this medical stuff.
And like you said, Chris Johnson is at the top of his mental game right now. He said he has two choices. He can either just roll over and quit, or he can fight. He's going to choose to fight. And that's very much like former Titans linebacker Tim Shaw, who also is living with ALS, was diagnosed in 2014. And the disease has, I think that's one of the things that shocked Titans fans so much is Chris Johnson can't speak now. Tim Shaw still has a lot of those abilities. He's been living with it for 12 years. I mean, Chris Johnson, just within a year, it affects everybody differently. So I want to ask you about the underlying CTE connection with ALS. Lots of people, I know the Chris Nowinski, who is very advanced in the concussion field, has spoken out about this, but I want to bring it to you as well. What's in your medical experience and in your research, what's this connection like between ALS and CTE?
Well, there's certainly way more that we don't know about CTE than what we do know, right?
Yes.
But what we do know is that there is some relationship, at least in terms of legal ramifications for sure. An ALS diagnosis qualifies you for the quote concussion settlement. And we're not talking about money, and nobody cares about money. But my point is, there is that legal nexus that the courts have decided. And there are medical studies that show, look, once again, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm an orthopedic surgeon, but the chances of having ALS are minuscule in the general population. But there is a study that has the chances of ALS in people who suffered concussions, i.e. football players, 3 or 4 times more. So 3 or 4 times as likely to get something is significant.
Yes.
But to be fair, if the chances are if you have 3 or 4 times the normal chance of, quote, winning the lottery, that's great news, but it's still not likely, right? I mean, and that's kind of, and obviously this is not winning the lottery. This is getting struck by lightning, right? I mean, someone with 3 or 4 times the chance of getting struck by lightning, that's significant, but still that's not everybody. So there is some relationship, and we just don't understand what it is. Is it pure bad luck? Is it cumulative concussions? Is it one bad concussion? Is it genetics with the onset of concussions that make the the chemistry in the brain change and something happens? We don't know for sure, but there's something there. And, whether there's no connection or a complete connection, it's still just sad, right? And we know there is some connection, though, for sure.
Talking with Dr. David Chao, former NFL head team doc, 17 plus years in the league, injury expert on SiriusXM, Fox Sports Radio. Make sure you give him a follow at Pro Football Doc on Twitter. My name is Chris Belcher, and I'm at Chris Belcher 24. And this is the Bleav in Titans podcast. We appreciate Dr. Chao being with us with all the medical stuff that we have talked about. It all hits everybody differently. As we said, each injury affects everybody in different ways. But I have to bring up a topic that seems to be more controversial by the day, and that is youth sports and kids getting into the game. We see whether it's CTE, whether it's ALS, whether it's a torn ACL, fill in the blank. Dr. Chao, if you're looking at a parent, or you're looking at a child who aspires to be a football player for his long-term career, what is your message to people who have this aspiration still, at least from a medical perspective?
Well, I'm living it. I have a 13-year-old son who is playing lots of baseball. He's entering 8th grade. He's played flag football, and he's seen all his 8th grade going into 9th grade friends in the high school football program and all the workouts. And he's curious and interested in football. So I'm living it. When CTE on the first main go around and I started doing media, I remember distinctly getting asked this question 10 plus years ago. And my answer at that point was, I don't know, because if you ask my wife, my kids were in kindergarten or whatever they were, she says no and no way. And if you ask me, I say, I don't know. But I will tell you, Chris, what I tell parents is there's no question. First of all, let me get this clear. Football is not a contact sport. Basketball is a contact sport. Soccer is a contact sport. Football is a collision sport. Difference, right? And it's not the collision of one guy in front of you. A lot of injuries happen from guys rolling up on you and from the side, and the person delivering the blow can also get the injury, not just the person receiving the blow, and not to mention the non-contact injuries and things that happen. As an orthopedist, my main fear still is number one, paralysis. That's just, a moment, head down, and here you go. My next fears are, one misstep and your life path has changed related to your knee with an ACL and or cartilage tears or something like that. Fortunately, we don't know enough about CTE yet, but typically with training and what have you, that what typically happens is people are very conservative. One concussion, you're out for well over a week. And a second concussion, you're out for the season. And kids nowadays are being discussed and told that you should hang it up. Whereas one head down blow and you're paralyzed, one knee planted hit and you're limping for the rest of your life. There's no warning sign. Not that it's a good idea to have 2 concussions and you're fine. I'm just saying, we're hopefully to the education point where we're not, ignoring the concussion signs and symptoms. But I think it's an individual choice. Look, the other thing that I do, you see in the corner right here, some X Games medals. I was the chief medical officer for ESPN in the X Games, where they did backflips and double backflips on motorcycles. What I say is riding a motorcycle is clearly more dangerous than driving in a car. But you also can get in a bad accident driving in a car.
That's right.
You can get hurt playing basketball or get hit playing baseball. There's all sorts of dangers. There's no question playing football is like riding a motorcycle. It is more dangerous. But, riding a motorcycle in this country is not illegal. It's not for everybody. I'm not riding a motorcycle. It's not for everybody, but it's not illegal. I think we're going to let our son decide and what he wants to do. And quite honestly, I know he doesn't listen to this podcast. Well, I hope he doesn't. I don't mean that in a bad way, but on his YouTube and TV, some of my videos has popped up, and he's on the TV, and he's like, when he's watching, he goes, "Who is this nobody? How did he get on here?" Unfavorite, thumbs down, so he doesn't get him again. But my point is, I'm not sure that he's going to like the contact. So as a parent, for me to say, "Here you go, don't play it," I may want to, but it might take care of itself. He might not like the contact. And I think people are much more aware. This is what I tell parents. If your kid likes tennis as much as he likes football, go play tennis. If your kid likes baseball as much as he likes football, the risk is lower. I mean, you can't reduce it to zero, but it is less risk. But I will say something as my kids enter high school. Like, Mike, I don't know if you have kids or how old they are, but the one thing I will say for football is that there are very few no-cut sports anymore out there that aren't true team sports. And sure, there's cross country and there's track and field that are typically no-cut. But at least in San Diego, where I live, you can't walk into high school and make a basketball team. You can't walk into high school and make a soccer team. You can't walk into high school and make a water polo team, a baseball team, a lacrosse team. You have to have played before. Football, although there's some peewee leagues, is a sport where you can start in high school and make a team and be part of a team. I'm not saying you'll start. I'm not saying you whatever, but there's something to that. And the other sport that we are having some in San Diego is rugby. And, that's another thing that I cover a lot. So there are some benefits of sports and the team nature of it. And I think there's something to have said for a true team sport that you can make without all these travel programs and a billion lessons, without being 6'6" and, or whatever it is, and still get some benefit of it. I actually never played football. In some ways, I wish I did. I played water polo. It was a fall sport in Southern California, and I never got to football. But I think it's an individual choice. But yes, it is more dangerous than other sports.
And it's an individual choice for everyone. And I hope that someone listening or watching this show on the Bleav YouTube channel can take that advice and impart that on their children to make the most informed decision possible. Dr. David Chao joining us, obviously, with the recent ALS diagnosis of Titans great Chris Johnson. Dr. Chao, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Anything else you would like to add about Chris Johnson, about ALS, any of the topics we discussed?
The only thing I would add is I'd love to chat with you again. And I hope it's about a brighter topic next time is all, that's it.
Let's make that happen. Hopefully there won't be too many injuries in 2026 for the Titans, so we won't have to speak about it, but inevitably it's football, it's a collision sport. It's going to happen. Dr. David Chao is at ProFootballDoc on Twitter. Make sure that you follow him. I am at Chris Belcher 24. This is the Bleav in Titans podcast. Thank you so much for being with us on another edition. And until next time, tighten up.